What on earth is going on? Israel, Iran, America, the world. Is it prophecy? Is it the end of the age? Are we on the verge of what the scriptures warned us of?
Everybody's 593 BC, a Hebrew prophet sat by a river in Babylon and saw something that made no sense. His people's greatest ally, Persia, would one day invade his homeland, not alone, with Russia, with Turkey, with North African armies, nations that didn't even exist as enemies yet, nations that had never worked together. He wrote it down anyway. He gave specific names, geographic locations, the direction they'd come from. Then he gave one more detail, a condition that would tell you exactly when this invasion would happen. Fast forward to June 2025. Israel and Iran just fought a 12-day war. The very nations Ezekiel named are now hostile to Israel. The coalition is forming. But here's what everyone's missing. That one condition Ezekiel gave, it hasn't happened yet, which means the real invasion is still coming, and the peace that comes before it will fool everyone. June 2025 changed everything. For 12 days, Israel and Iran fought what military analysts are calling the most intense conflict between the two nations in modern history. This wasn't proxy warfare through Hezbollah or Hamas. This was direct. Iran launched missiles. Israel responded with targeted strikes. The Iron Dome worked overtime. Casualties mounted on both sides. Then, after 12 days, a ceasefire. But don't call it peace. Both nations pulled back, regrouped, and started preparing for the next round. Iranian leadership promised retaliation. Israeli intelligence warned of another attack. The ceasefire didn't end the conflict, it paused it. And that's when prophecy watchers around the world opened their Bibles to Ezekiel chapter 38. Because what just happened between Israel and Iran looks eerily similar to something written 2,600 years ago, a prophecy about a massive coalition of nations that would one day invade Israel from every direction, an invasion led by a mysterious figure called Gog from a land called Magog, an invasion that would involve Persia. Persia is Iran's ancient name, so the question everyone's asking is simple. Are we watching the fulfillment of Ezekiel 38 right now? Is this the beginning of the end times invasion the prophet warned about? The answer is more complicated than you think. Because Ezekiel didn't just name the nations that would attack Israel, he named every single one. And when you trace those ancient names to modern countries, you'll see something shocking. The coalition Ezekiel predicted is forming right now. Not in 100 years, not symbolically, right now. But before we look at which nations are involved, you need to understand who Ezekiel was and why what he saw should terrify anyone paying attention. Ezekiel wasn't guessing. He wasn't making predictions based on political trends or military strategy. He was a prophet in exile, carried away from Jerusalem when Babylon destroyed the temple in 586 BC. He lived among Jewish captives by the Kibar River, and that's where God showed him the future. Chapter 38 starts with a direct message. Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Prophesy against him and say, this is what the Lord God says, I am against you, Gog. Then Ezekiel lists the nations that will join this invasion. Persia, Cush, and Put will be with them, all with shields and helmets. Gomer with all its troops, and Beth Togarmah from the far north with all its troops. Many nations will be with you. Read those names again. Magog, Persia, Cush, Put, Gomer, Togarmah. To Ezekiel's original audience, these were recognizable names, ancient peoples, descendants of Noah's sons listed in Genesis chapter 10, tribes and regions that existed in the ancient world.
But here's what makes this prophecy remarkable. Every single name Ezekiel listed can be traced through historical records to specific modern nations. Not through guesswork, through genealogies,
ancient historians and geographic evidence that scholars have documented for centuries. Josephus, the first-century Jewish historian, identified these nations. Herodotus, the Greek historian, wrote about where these peoples lived. The Bible itself gives us the family trees that show exactly who these nations are. And when you trace each name to its modern location, you get a map that should make anyone nervous. Because the nations Ezekiel named 2,600 years ago are the exact nations forming an anti-Israel alliance today. Russia is hostile to Israel. Iran is Israel's sworn enemy. Turkey's relationship with Israel has collapsed. North African nations are openly supporting Israel's enemies. The coalition is real. But who exactly are these nations? Let's go through them one by one, because when you see which countries Ezekiel named, you'll understand why this prophecy is impossible to ignore. Start with the easiest identification, Persia. There's zero debate here, no scholarly disagreement, no competing theories. Persia is Iran. The Persian Empire was founded by Cyrus the Great in 550 BC, just decades after Ezekiel wrote this prophecy. The Persians ruled one of the largest empires in human history, stretching from India to Egypt. They controlled the region for centuries until Alexander the Great conquered them in 330 BC. But the people remained, the culture remained, the identity remained. For 2,500 years, the nation we now call Iran was known to the world as Persia. It wasn't until 1935 that the country officially changed its name from Persia to Iran. But even today, Iranians call themselves Persians. They speak Persian. They identify with Persian history and culture. When Ezekiel wrote Persia, he was pointing directly at modern Iran. Here's what makes this stunning. In Ezekiel's day, Persia wasn't Israel's enemy. In fact, it was a Persian king who freed the Jews from Babylonian captivity. Cyrus allowed the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. The Bible even calls Cyrus God's shepherd, Israel's liberator, Israel's friend. So when Ezekiel prophesied that Persia would one day join a coalition to invade Israel, that would have seemed impossible. Why would Persia attack the nation it had saved? But look at Iran today. The friend became the enemy, exactly as Ezekiel said. Now let's look at the leader of this coalition, Gog from the land of Magog.
Josephus, writing in the 1st century AD, identified Magog with the Scythians, fierce warrior people who lived north of the Black Sea and the Caucasus Mountains. That's modern-day Russia and the former Soviet republics. The Greek historian Herodotus described the Scythians as dwelling in the lands we now call Ukraine, southern Russia, and Central Asia. Genesis chapter 10 lists Magog as a son of Japheth, whose descendants populated the regions north and west of the Middle East. Every ancient source points to the same region, the north. Ezekiel gives us another clue. He calls Gog the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Some Hebrew scholars translate this as the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. Rosh sounds like Russia. Meshech sounds like Moscow. Tubal sounds like Tobolsk, a region in Russia. Is this definitive? Scholars debate the linguistic connection, but what's undeniable is Ezekiel's geographic description. You will come from your place in the far north, you and many nations with you. Draw a line directly north from Israel. You pass through Lebanon, through Syria, through Turkey, and eventually you reach Russia. Russia is the nation directly north of Israel. Russia is the great military power of the northern regions. Russia fits the description better than any other nation on earth. Now look at the other names, Gomer and Togarmah. Genesis lists both as descendants of Japheth who settled in Asia Minor. Ancient sources identify Gomer with the Cimmerians, who lived in what is now Turkey. Togarmah was Gomer's son, and the ancient Armenians claimed descent from him. Modern location? Turkey and the Caucasus region. Cush and Put, both were sons of Ham who settled in Africa. Cush refers to the lands south of Egypt, modern Sudan and parts of Ethiopia. Put refers to the lands west of Egypt, modern Libya and North Africa. Now step back and look at the complete map. Russia in the far north, Turkey directly north of Israel, Iran to the east, Libya to the west, Sudan to the south. Israel is surrounded on every side except the Mediterranean Sea. And every single one of these nations either has hostile relations with Israel today or is moving in that direction. This isn't speculation. This is documented geopolitical reality. 2,600 years ago, this coalition would have seemed impossible. These nations had nothing in common. Different religions, different cultures, different strategic interests, no reason to work together. But look at today. Russia and Iran have formed a strategic alliance. Russian military equipment flows to Iran. Iranian drones are used in Russia's conflicts. The two nations coordinate their Middle East policies. Turkey, a NATO member that was once Israel's ally, has turned hostile. Turkish President Erdogan openly condemns Israel. He's called Israeli leaders terrorists. He's threatened military action. Turkey's relationship with Israel has collapsed to its lowest point in decades. And Turkey is moving closer to Russia and Iran. They coordinate in Syria. They hold trilateral summits. They're building economic partnerships. The North African nations? Libya is in chaos, with militant groups openly hostile to Israel. Sudan normalized relations with Israel briefly, but that agreement is fragile and could collapse with any government change. For the first time in history, the exact nations Ezekiel named are aligned against Israel or moving in that direction. This is not coincidence. This is convergence. The 12-day war with Iran in June 2025 showed how quickly things could escalate, how close we are to a larger regional conflict, how easily this coalition could mobilize. Prophecy teachers are watching this and saying the same thing. This is it. Ezekiel 38 is happening. The invasion is beginning. And honestly, the evidence is compelling. The nations match, the hostility is real, the timing feels right. But here's the problem. Ezekiel didn't just predict who would attack Israel. He predicted when. He gave specific conditions that would exist when this invasion occurs, conditions that would make it unmistakable. And when you look at those conditions, when you compare them to Israel today, you realize something shocking. This isn't Ezekiel 38 being fulfilled. Not yet. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 8. Pay attention to every word. After many days, you will be called to arms. In future years, you will invade a land that has recovered from war, whose people were gathered from many nations to the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolate. They had been brought out from the nations, and now all of them
Live in safety. Notice the conditions. Israel must be restored after devastation. Check. That happened in 1948 after 2,000 years of exile. Israel's people must be gathered from many nations. Check. Jews have returned from Russia, Europe, the Middle East, Africa, everywhere. The desolate land must be rebuilt. Check. Mark Twain visited Palestine in 1867 and described it as barren and empty. Today, it's flourishing with forests, farms, and cities. But then there's the final condition, the one that changes everything. Now all of them live in safety. Ezekiel repeats this condition in verse 11, and this is where it gets specific. You will say, I will invade a land of unwalled villages. I will attack a peaceful and unsuspecting people, all of them living without walls and without gates and bars. Read that again. Unwalled villages, peaceful and unsuspecting, living without walls, gates, or bars. The Hebrew word for safety is betach. It means security, confidence, without fear. The word for peaceful is shakat. It means quiet, undisturbed, at rest. Ezekiel is describing a nation that feels completely secure, so safe they don't need walls, so confident they're not preparing for attack, at rest, unsuspecting. In the ancient world, walls meant survival. Cities without walls were defenseless. When enemies approached, you fled to a walled city or you died. For Ezekiel to describe Israel as having unwalled villages meant total security. No external threat, no fear of invasion,
no need for fortifications. Now, let me ask you a question. Does that describe Israel in 2025? Does Israel live in unwalled villages? Does Israel feel peaceful and unsuspecting? Is Israel at rest without walls, gates, or bars? Think about what just happened. A 12-day war with Iran. Missiles launched, Iron Dome intercepting attacks, casualties on both sides. Think about Israel's borders. The Gaza barrier is one of the most fortified borders in the world. Concrete walls, sensors, cameras, military patrols. Think about daily life in Israel. Bomb shelters in every building, rocket drills in schools, red alert apps on every phone, security checkpoints everywhere. Israel is not at rest. Israel is not living in safety. Israel is one of the most fortified, militarized, security-conscious nations on Earth. Let's go through this point by point. Unwalled villages? No. Israel has constructed massive security barriers along every border. The separation barrier in the West Bank, the Gaza Wall, the northern border with Lebanon. Israel is not unwalled. Peaceful and unsuspecting? No. Israel just fought Iran for 12 days. Israeli forces conduct regular military operations. The IDF is on constant high alert. Reservists are called up regularly. Israel is not peaceful. Living in safety? No. Every home built in Israel since 1992 is required by law to have a bomb shelter. Israeli children practice rocket drills in school. Families check their phones constantly for security alerts. The Iron Dome exists because Israel is under constant threat. Without gates and bars? No. Israel has security checkpoints throughout the country. Armed guards at malls, bus stations, restaurants, and schools. Metal detectors at public venues. Airport security that takes hours. Israel has more gates and bars than almost any nation on Earth. The honest assessment is clear. The peace and safety condition of Ezekiel 38 has not been met. Israel is not dwelling securely. Israel is not at rest. Israel is not living without walls. Therefore, the Gog-Magog invasion described in Ezekiel 38 and 39 is not currently being fulfilled. Let me say that clearly, because this matters. What we're seeing today, the Iran conflict, the coalition forming, the rising tensions, this is not Ezekiel 38 happening right now. The conditions haven't been met. The full coalition hasn't assembled for a ground invasion. The supernatural divine intervention Ezekiel describes hasn't occurred. The 7-year aftermath hasn't begun. This is not the fulfillment. Not yet, but here's what's crucial to understand. Just because it's not happening now doesn't mean it's not coming. The nations are aligning exactly as Ezekiel predicted. The hostility is real. The coalition is forming. The stage is being set. All that's missing is the peace. And according to Scripture, that peace is coming. A false peace, a deceptive peace, a peace that will make Israel lower its guard. And when that peace arrives, when Israel finally dwells in safety, that's when the invasion Ezekiel predicted will begin. The Apostle Paul described exactly what this will look like. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3. While people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly, as labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. Notice the phrase, peace and safety. Not when there is peace and safety, but when people are saying peace and safety. A proclaimed peace, an announced peace, an agreement. This suggests a false confidence, a diplomatic breakthrough, a treaty that makes the world celebrate. And then, sudden destruction, like labor pains hitting a pregnant woman, unexpected, overwhelming, inescapable. What could create this peace? Scenario 1, a major peace agreement. What if Saudi Arabia normalized relations with Israel, bringing the weight of the Islamic world's most influential nation into partnership? What if the Palestinian issue was resolved through international guarantees? Scenario 2, decisive military victory.
What if Israel eliminated its primary threats so completely that the need for constant vigilance disappeared? The walls might remain physically, but psychologically, Israel would feel safe. Scenario 3, the covenant with the Antichrist. Daniel chapter 9 describes a future leader who will confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, meaning 7 years. This covenant could guarantee Israel's security so completely that the nation finally lowers its defenses. Any of these scenarios could fulfill Ezekiel's condition. The peace is coming. It might come through diplomacy. It might come through military dominance. It might come through a charismatic world leader who promises security. But when it comes, Israel will believe it. The walls will come down, maybe not literally, but psychologically. Israel will dwell in safety. And that's when Russia, Iran, Turkey, Libya, and Sudan will make their move. The invasion Ezekiel saw 2,600 years ago will finally happen. The nations are gathering. The coalition is forming. Iran and Russia are aligned. Turkey is hostile. The pieces are moving into position exactly where Ezekiel said they would. But the peace hasn't come yet. Israel still has its walls, still lives in fear, which means the real question isn't if this will happen. It's what happens when the peace finally arrives.